So, crank it up, turn it down. In this segment, I will read controversial drum habits to get Sean's opinion. If he digs it, he can say I dig it if he wants, but the proper thing to say is crank it up.
Crank it up.
Turn it up to 11 if you really love it.
Crank
Like
it
if it's
up.
your favorite thing, say crank it up to 11. And then if he's not interested, he'll turn it down. So we're going to start with some pretty classic drum things. These ideas came from me the other day at work. These are things that I had talks with on social, in store, different things like that, where people feel really strongly about them for some reason. There's no wrong or right. I feel like that's what this is going to boil down to. But we want to know your opinion because you've been doing this a long time. So the first thing is muffling your bass drum with a pillow, putting a pillow in your bass drum. Crank it up, turn it down. How do you feel?
I'm going to say crank it up. Yep.
Why?
Again, it is opinion. I think that in some cases, having your bass drum wide open is awesome. In some cases, you need to muffle it. I think there are better ways to muffle your bass drum than a pillow, but a pillow is a quick, easy, time-tested way to muffle your bass drum without a lot of fuss. Sometimes you need to really calm that bass drum down a little bit. Maybe you want your bass drum to be a little more punchy and not so ringy and such, and you need it a little bit more controlled for certain situations. So throwing a pillow in there is a quick, easy way to manage the overall resonance of your bass drum, and I think that I'm going to say crank it up. There's nothing wrong with putting a pillow in your bass drum if you need a little more punch.
Mm-hmm. I would say the only thing that's important is that it's not a gnarly used gross pillow.
That
because,
is true.
dude, the amount of times that we get a used drum set in here,
Very true,
and we have to just like clean it up.
Oh,
there's always
horrible.
The grossest, gnarliest blanket or sheet.
Yeah, and when I say
stained pillow,
crank it up, I don't mean let's stuff it full of junk and crap and all that kinds of stuff, or keep it in there forever. But sometimes it's easy and effective. Just throw that pillow in there and calm the bass drum down a little bit. There are better ways to do it. EQ pad, the Kick Pro, an Evans EMAT or Super Kick is one of my favorite bass drum heads. So
start with the heads, right?
Start with the heads. Get a good head, but sometimes in certain situations you just need to throw a pillow in there. It's fine.
Cranking it up.
Crank it up. It's effective.
All right.
It's very effective.
Here's one that I think you're going to turn down, but I'm not sure.
You think?
Drum racks.
You think you know me?
What's your opinion on the drum rack? Crank it up or turn it down, Sean?
Wow. Okay.
The drum rack. I need you to be honest.
I have to
here.
go there. I'm going to say, oh my gosh, got me on the spot here.
Listen, this is not to create enemies. This is to give. This is an opinion thing. Don't worry. Don't worry. We will protect you. They're gonna have Goody to deal with. They have Goody to deal with.
The drum police aren't going to come.
The drum police.
Okay,
no.
Very good.
No.
Turn it down. I'm not a fan of drum racks. I think less is more in a lot of cases. But to each their own, I guess.
Turn it down.
Yeah.
I knew I'd get you.
I had to be honest.
Yep.
I'm not a fan of drum racks.
Yeah.
But in certain situations, they're.
Well, I'll tell you, I played a drum rack at one time. Is when after I got my first drum set, came to drums, etc. But I had saved up from like mowing money and this and that, like $700, which is a lot for a kid. And I was thankful, and I was able to borrow a drum set from my uncle, who's a drummer. He's the guy who really got me started in that regard, equipment wise, and so I had drums to play, so I was good. Yeah. So I was able to save my money, save up, came in, got a kit, and you guys were trying to move a Ludwig Epic at the time, and it was like a 7-piece kit. I wasn't planning on that, but I got all the drums, and not knowing anything necessarily.
Heck of a deal, I remember.
Heck of a deal. But I was like, well, I got to use them all. So I had all these drums on stands, and it sucked. And I was like, here's the solution, the drum rack, right? So by the time before I figured out that you don't need to play every drum you have, and not necessarily that whole thing. Before I got my feet wet, I should say, I was carrying this thing around. I had to borrow a minivan. I had a rack, all of the drums like bungeed together, as many cymbals as I could. Like, it was wild. Like, it was like a van just for my drums. Like, the guys couldn't fit anything else in it, and Anyway, settle. Now I play a 4-piece kit. So, but
Yeah, I mean,
but the drum rack thing, like, it serves a purpose if you're trying to do that whole
it
thing.
does.
But I
It
feel
does.
like they always end up in someone's basement,
Sure.
which is fine.
Right.
Like, just to hold everything.
And I think
But the
there's-
gigging drummer typically doesn't rock that
Yeah,
setup.
not normally, not usually. It's effective for, you know, if you have a lot of drums and all that kinds of stuff.
Mhm.
But most gigging drummers tend to keep it very simple and get the most out of the least amount of equipment because we're hauling it around.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
if it's you know, you're on tour and you're playing in Rush and you're Neil Peart and you have a whole show dedicated to, you know, your drum solo and hitting 300 drums, and you have a whole electronic set with your rack, then, you know, it's
Yeah.
it's appropriate.
And a
for
guy
the
to set it all
situation.
up.
It's very appropriate. But most drummers that you know want a rack tend to have a 5-piece set anyway, and
Mhm.
think that that's the solution to a lot of problems. But it tends to, you know, create more problems than
Yeah.
anything else.
All right, we got to crank it up, one turn it down. Sounds good. That's a good start. That's a lot of fun to talk about that kind of thing.